Welcome to the 2021 Spring President's Convocation. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope everyone had a safe and restful break. Like so many of you, I was deeply troubled and saddened by the recent attack on the US Capitol. It was a jarring start to the year, but I have faith in our democracy, and I'm proud of the role we play in educating our students to be thoughtful, discerning citizens. To begin today's convocation, I invite Vice President of Mission and Identity, Father Justin Daffron, Society of Jesus, to give the invocation. Father Daffron.
Let us pause and quiet ourselves, calling to mind that we are in the presence of our good and loving God, to whom we call upon by many names. Let us pray. God of us all, as we celebrate our spring 2021 convocation, ground us in gratitude for our students, faculty, and staff you have called to be part of the Loyola community. Ground us in gratitude for our diversity, which in its fullness reflects your divine image and likeness. Ground us in gratitude for our gifts of health of mind, body, and spirit. Keep us with faith that together through social distancing, masking, and other sacrifices, our well-being will flourish despite the challenges we face. Keep us with faith that contributing our gifts and talents, you will guide us to life's greatest joys. Keep us with faith that through reflection, we will continue to find your presence in the experiences that unfold this new semester. Sustain us through hope that the knowledge, skills, and values developed this semester will serve as the foundations that will allow us to serve each other and our community's greatest needs. Redeem us by love, so this convocation and the work of our semester might sing a song of praise fitting to your most holy name. And I'd invite you to recall the special petitions that you have at this time. So in the quiet of your own heart, for what else and who else shall we be praying for this day? Gracious God, we entrust to you these prayers that we recall in our hearts and all of the intentions of the Loyola community, for we have confidence that you will grant them in your own way, in your own time, and we offer this prayer in your most holy name, our one true God, who lives and reigns both now and forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Father Daffron. I would now like to invite Mr. Joe Locascio to come forward to share a presentation on the United Way campaign.
I'm going to introduce the United Way video for our campaign, Loyola campaign for 2021. The United Way, SELA, and its agencies have been at the forefront of solving community problems for 95 years. During COVID, meals have been provided, health care has been given, and financial assistance has been designated so our citizens are able to make ends meet. When times get tough, it may be harder to give, but it is exactly these times when we must give what we can so that our whole community can prosper. I hope you will join the United Way family this year and make a donation. Details and dates of the campaign will be provided in the next week, so please check your email. Thank you.
Because you give to United Way year-round, we were able to create over $10 million in local COVID-19 relief. Our volunteers packed and delivered over 650,000 meals to individuals in need. We provided over $2 million in funding to nonprofits, and millions more in crisis grants to help people make ends meet. And that's only the beginning.
Thank you, United Way, for being a light at this time of darkness for me and my family.
Thank the United Way for coming to our city and blessing our kids.
Thank you, United Way, and all United Way donors for all the ways you have helped us.
Thank you, BET,
United Way,
and Crescent Care
for keeping our family healthy.
Thanks to them, I was able to pay my rent and put food on the table during the pandemic.
And I wanted to show appreciation. I wanted to aid in whatever way I can.
Thank you, United Way.
Thank you, United Way.
Love you, United Way.
For 95 years, United Way of Southeast Louisiana has been on the front lines of community problems where we live and work. We can't recover together without a commitment to equity, health, education, and financial stability for all. Now, more than ever, we must unite to rebuild our communities. We must unite to create a stronger Southeast Louisiana. United Way, here then, today, tomorrow. Visit UnitedWaySELA.org.
Thank you, Joe, for that presentation. Today, I'm honored to recognize a number of outstanding faculty and staff for their service and accomplishments. Each one has a deep-seated desire to make our world better through their teaching, research, personal interactions, service, and the all-encompassing commitment to our Jesuit values. We will begin with the 25-year Service Awards. Today we recognize our faculty and staff members who have reached or will reach 25 years of service milestone to Loyola University in 2021. Each honoree has shared some personal or professional highlights of the past 25 years that I would like to share with you. Mr. Charles Marshall is our first honoree. In his 25 years of service in the physical plant, Charlie has worn many different hats. From database management to scheduling dumpsters, he's played a role in every facet of facilities management throughout his career. But perhaps his proudest accomplishment is that all the years he's supervised supply purchases, the university has never once run out of toilet paper. We all deeply thank you for your excellent supervisory skills, Charlie, especially at the start of the pandemic when we know toilet paper was nowhere to be found. Mr. John Jacob is our next celebrant. He has been a dedicated employee in the university physical plant. He started off his first 2 years in the mechanic shop, followed by 18 years as a university plumber, where he completed many welding projects and was the long unsung hero in our emergency asbestos abatement project. He has spent his last 5 years managing the physical plant storeroom. John's proudest moments are watching 2 of his 3 children walking across the stage to receive their diplomas, and his youngest child is currently enrolled. Thank you, John, for your great work in keeping the university open, safe, and fully stocked. Mr. Danny Arnold is our third celebrant, who has also worked in the physical plant for the length of his career. He was recruited by Charlie Hudson to work in the air conditioning department in September of 1996 and has spent most of his time since then in a supervisory capacity. As he reflects on his years at the university, he's amazed at how the campus has changed from total building reconstructions to several new buildings. The event that stands out above all the rest is when he and 9 others rode out Hurricane Katrina on campus. They lived together for 37 days before finally being able to go home, which at that point was a FEMA trailer due to the devastation within the city. In looking back, Danny said, 25 years has flown by. Danny, we thank you for your service and for being a part of the team that safeguarded the university during a very vulnerable moment. Next, I would like to recognize Ms. Susan Brower. Following a career in video production in Pittsburgh, Chicago, and 5 years at Tulane, Susan happily jumped the fence to advance Loyola's media technology. Following in the footsteps of Sister Annie Ramagos, her first project was to finish hanging TVs and VCRs in classroom. Within a few months, Susan surprised her library colleagues with the news that videotape is dead and introduced the new latest technology, DVDs. Over the years, she has kept our portable and classroom equipment on the cutting edge, introducing digital projection, clickers, video conferencing, and more. After years of working to improve our web conferencing and making it accessible to all, she managed to negotiate a Zoom of free access. Free access to Zoom at the start of the COVID pandemic. She's also most proud of becoming a certified Iyengar yoga instructor and has been teaching yoga to our community since 2011 in the sports complex, and most recently, not surprisingly, on Zoom. Susan, thank you for all you do to keep us moving forward and connected. I especially want to thank you for the Herculean effort to lead the transition of the entire campus to high-flex teaching and learning as the world went virtual during the pandemic. Our next honoree is Dr. Bob Thomas. During his career, he has held the Loyola Distinguished Scholar Chair in Environmental Communication and was the 2011 recipient of the prestigious Ducks Academics Award. Immediately following Hurricane Katrina, Bob served as the interim director of the School of Mass Communication for 3 years and led over 200 tours of New Orleans to share the impact of the storm that it had on our coast. All of his courses have focused on improving the understanding of science and its relevance to the future of coastal Louisiana and beyond. Bob, thank you so much for your extraordinary research and for bringing awareness to our deteriorating coastlines. Dr. Jenna Saslaw is our next celebrant. Jana is happy to have worked with and made lasting relationships with her colleagues from across the School of Music, College of Music, and Media, and Loyola University in many committees, including a number of years on the Faculty Senate. As a flutist, Jana has been fortunate to perform at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival a number of times, and at the Umbria Jazz Festival in Perugia, Italy. With the New Orleans Vocal Arts Chorale, she has sung numerous bucket list choral works with the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra, including the very moving performance of Mahler's Resurrection Symphony at the reopening of the Orpheum Theater. During her 25 years at Loyola, Jana is proud to have mentored countless wonderful students. She's perhaps most proud of creating the course Student Composers Forum, a workshop that has enabled composers to form a creative community, to receive professional guidance, and to present their work in concert. Jenna is also proud to have recently published 4 articles with her husband, Dr. James Patton Walsh, adjunct professor of music composition at Loyola and current co-teacher of the Student Composers Forum. And despite this close working relationship, Jana and Jimbo have remained together for 42 years. Our last member that is celebrating 25 years is Dr. Kim Ernst. Kim has been a dependable member of the Department of Psychological Sciences, the college, university, and perhaps most importantly, to our students. She's had the privilege to educate thousands of university students, oftentimes mentoring them through a transformative process, beginning with the Introduction to Psychology courses, to conducting research and presenting findings at the professional conferences. She has a reputation for being unwavering in terms of her standards in and out of the classroom. Additionally, she has the uncanny ability to establish professional, yet caring and personal relationships with many of our students, many of whom, not surprisingly, keep in touch with her for years after they graduate. She has remained a steadfast and proud supporter of their advanced academic and professional endeavors. Congratulations, Kim, on 25 years for service. And thank you all for entrusting us with your time and your talents. You are truly an integral part of what makes Loyola successful, and the reason this campus feels so much like home. Thank you for choosing Loyola to devote your life's work to. Next, we will honor our Marquette Fellows. Marquette Faculty Fellowships provide funding for faculty to devote summer months to research projects. These highly competitive fellowships are awarded annually by a selection of committee of faculty peers. The summer 2020 recipients and the titles of their proposals are Dr. Madison Silverstein, Department of Psychological Sciences, Increasing Access to Graduate Education in Psychology. Dr. Edward McClellan, School of Music, The Psychology of Teaching and Learning Music. Dr. Jason Ezel, Monroe Library, Gay Liberationist Collectivism in New Orleans, the Louisiana Sissies in Struggles, 1978 through 79. Professor Davida Finger, College of Law, The Other Pandemic, Housing Justice During COVID-19. And Dr. Young Soo Kim, Department of Political Science, Foreign Aid and Soft Power, Experimental Evidence from Indonesia. Congratulations to all of our 2020 Marquette Fellows. I look forward to learning more about your research projects following the summer months. New this year, we are recognizing faculty with Creative Canvas Course Awards. We know that this past year has been challenging for faculty. Not only did we have to face a pandemic, but we also learned how to use a brand new learning management system and adopted a completely new method of teaching, the HighFlex mode. The first Creative Canvas Course Awards are provided by the Center for Teaching, Research and Learning, formerly known as the Center for Faculty Innovation. This is to award high-quality courses developed during these challenging times. The selection committee for these awards included the Associate Vice Provost, a member of the online learning team, and members from the Center's Faculty Advisory Committee. And courses were chosen based upon their creativity, the organization and design, engaging activities, and innovation. The committee referred to quality matters criteria in their decisions, and recipients will provide a video walkthrough of their course to share on the Center's website to help others with their own course design and teaching pedagogy. So, the inaugural recipients of this award are Dr. Michelle Johnston, Management, College of Business, Business Communications. Dr. Gregory Waldrop, Society of Jesus, Department of Art, College of Music and Media, Introduction to Art History. Dr. Tracy Lamont, Loyola Institute for Ministry, College of Nursing and Health, Foundations of Religious Education. Congratulations to all our 2021 Creative Canvas Course Award winners. I now invite Professor John Lovett to present the University Senate Awards. Professor Lovett.
Thank you. Before I announce this year's Senate Award recipients, I would first like to thank briefly the members of the University Senate Awards Committee, Christopher Shaberg, Mitch Crusto, Lucy Rosenblum, Emily Eisworth, and Shan Chin, who read and evaluated all of the detailed nomination materials we received. To begin, this year I am pleased to announce that we have two winners of the University Senate Award for Research. The first winner is Dr. Christian L. Bolden, Associate Professor of Criminology and Justice. Dr. Bolden came to Loyola in 2012 as an assistant professor and became an associate professor in 2017. In 2020, Dr. Bolden published two important works. First, he published Social Networks in Gangs in the Oxford Research Encyclopedia of Criminology and Criminal Justice. Next, he published Out of the Red, My Life of Gangs, Prison, and Redemption, Rutgers University Press. Out of the Red has been hailed as a breakthrough example of autoethnography in which Dr. Bolden weaves together his own narrative of teen gang involvement, growing up in San Antonio, Texas, incarceration as a youth in an adult prison, re-entry into free society, and eventually his successful path through higher education. The book draws on 41 in-depth interviews with former and current gang members, more than 1,000 letters, and extensive academic literature about the social forces shaping gang members inside and outside of prison. The book is already being widely adopted in university courses and in re-entry programs across the United States. The book has garnered Dr. Bolden extensive media attention and was awarded the Frank Tannenbaum Outstanding Book Award in 2020 as the outstanding book in convict criminology. As Dr. David Pyrus, one of the leading scholars of gangs in the United States, put it, Out of the Red is truly remarkable scholarship. It offers an indictment of the legal scaffolding that propped up the United States' grand experiment with mass incarceration that has resulted in many casualties and few successes. It is also a story of redemption that can and will inspire young people across the nation. Dr. Bolden's scholarship and his teaching inspire all of his colleagues and students at Loyola. The second winner is Elizabeth Joan Kelly, Digital Programs Coordinator and Associate Professor in the J. Edgar and Louise S. Monroe Library. Professor Kelly is an outstanding graduate of Loyola University New Orleans Music Composition Program and an accomplished pianist and composer. She began her professional career as a librarian at Loyola in 2010 and became Digital Programs Coordinator and Associate Professor in 2017. Over the course of the past year, Professor Kelly has authored 3 important articles that address complex issues related to digital resources. The first evaluates how copyright and licensing statements are used or misused for digital cultural heritage purposes. The next gauges the impact of how institutions upload their digital cultural heritage images in the Wikimedia Commons. Professor Kelly started work on the 3rd publication in the summer of 2018 when she began adding citations to Loyola's own digital library objects on Wikipedia. This work resulted in an article published in the Journal of Contemporary Archival Studies that provides standards and methods for smaller and medium-sized institutions engaged in digital cultural heritage Wikimedia projects. In collaboration with other librarians and archivists, Professor Kelly has been awarded over $300,000 in 2 IMLL National Leadership and Libraries grants. Finally, last October, Professor Kelly released an album of electronic music, Farewell Doomed Planet, which has received many enthusiastic reviews and media recognition, has been nominated for a 2020 Independent Music Award, and has received playtime on radio stations across the United States. Congratulations to both Christian Bolden and Elizabeth Kelly, the 2 winners of this year's University Senate Award for Research. I am also fortunate to announce 2 winners of this year's University Senate Award for Teaching. The first winner is Professor Sandy Varnado from the College of Law. Professor Varnado joined the College of Law faculty in 2010 and was recently honored with the Catherine Loriot Distinguished Professorship in Civil Law. During her time at the College of Law, Professor Varnado has taught many core civil law classes crucial to student preparation for the Louisiana bar exam and has helped many recent graduates in bar exam preparation by working in the College of Law's supplemental bar prep program, during which she typically answers more than 100 email questions from recent graduates over the course of a summer. She has earned a reputation for being an outstanding teacher among both students and her colleagues. She is known for giving detailed feedback to her students, pioneering the use of online quizzes, lectures, and other teaching tools to augment class time. As one of her recent students put it, if a circle is perfection, then Professor Sandy Varnado is just about the most well-rounded teacher that I've ever met. Our second award winner is Dr. Kathy Rogers, the chair of the Department of Strategic Communication and the Sean M. Donnelly Professor for Nonprofit Communications. Dr. Rogers started her teaching career at Loyola in 1990. Over the years, Dr. Rogers has earned a reputation as a consummate and dedicated teacher. Long before service learning and experiential learning had a label, Professor Rogers required students to complete projects with community partners. She also pioneered the use of student reflection assignments to enable students to reflect on guest speakers, and has used student feedback to improve her courses. As Loyola's QEP faculty director, she has attended many training sessions about inclusivity and equity in the classroom and brought national best practices to our community. Her scholarship has also reinforced her expertise in pedagogy. As many of you know, Dr. Rogers has brought great acclaim to Loyola through her leadership and mentoring of Loyola's annual Bateman Public Relations Competition Team, hosted by the Public Relations Student Society of America. Loyola's outstanding success in the Bateman competition over the past 22 years, national recognition every single year, and 8 first-place finishes in the national competition is directly attributable to Professor Rogers' teaching and coaching. Finally, Professor Rogers' personal commitment to students exemplifies Loyola's values. As one current senior who has taken multiple classes from Dr. Rogers put it, in all my years of education, I have never come across a teacher who is so caring and who goes so far out of their way to make sure her students succeed as Kathy Rogers. Congratulations to both Sandy Varnado and Kathy Rogers, the 2 recipients of this year's University Senate Award for Teaching. This year, we also have 2 winners of the University Senate Award for Service. Our first winner is Susan Brower, Associate Professor and Media Services Coordinator in the J. Edgar and Louise S. Monroe Library. As Provost Singh mentioned a few moments ago, Susan Brower has been a whirlwind of action over the past year as Loyola pivoted to online learning with the arrival of the pandemic in March and then transitioned to a high-flex model of teaching over the summer. First, as Provost Singh mentioned, Professor Brower was instrumental in the university's adoption of the Zoom platform for web conferencing and teaching in March. She created and led Loyola's Zoom team, provided workshops on using the platform, and individually helped countless administrators, faculty, and staff learn how to use Zoom. Next, over the summer, Susan and her small staff in media services researched, designed, and installed instructional technology in 24 HyFlex classrooms on the main campus and helped the College of Law with the installation of 4 HyFlex classrooms. Throughout her career at Loyola, Professor Brower has been dedicated to the creation of high-quality learning environments and solutions for sound pedagogy, research, and innovation. Her spirit of sacrifice is exemplified by the fact that she voluntarily postponed a sabbatical scheduled for the 2020-2021 academic year so she could be on the ground, on the web, and practically everywhere, including teaching her regular yoga class to faculty, students, and staff. As one member of the faculty commented, Susan's leadership emerged at a crucial time for our community, and her leadership was, in fact, visionary. Our second service award winner is Dr. Jason Ezel, Instruction and Research Coordinator, National Fellowships Advisor, and Assistant Professor in the J. Edgar and Louise S. Monroe Library. Dr. Ezel arrived at Loyola in 2016 and has quickly emerged as a leader in the library faculty. He serves as liaison to the Criminology and Justice, History, Sociology, and Teacher Education departments, has taught a historical methods lab for the History Department and a new Information and Literacy interdisciplinary research course. Today, however, we honor Dr. Ezel's considerable service to the university and broader community. In recent years, Dr. Ezel has served on 3 major curriculum committees: the Standing Council on Academic Planning, SCAP, the University Courses and Curriculum Committee, UC&CC, and the Standing Committee on the Loyola Core, SCLC. Last year, Dr. Ezel became chair of the SCLC, and in that role, led the committee's review of new Loyola Core course proposals and presented those approvals to UC and CC, helped streamline the experimental course proposal process, and coordinated a number of innovative assessment and curricular redesign projects. He also joined the university's Diversity and Equity Inclusion Committee in 2019 and has worked tirelessly to expand and strengthen the university's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in many capacities. He's made important contributions to the advancements of literacy in our region, serving on the executive board of the New Orleans Information and Literacy Collective, and to the advancement of the LGBT+ community through his oral history work with the LGBT+ Archives Project of New Orleans. Finally, Dr. Ezel has made a remarkable contribution to student success at Loyola through his work as our National Fellowships Advisor for Loyola's Honors Program. In that role last year, Dr. Ezel conducted almost 90 one-on-one consultations, coordinated a dozen faculty feedback panels, wrote 15 endorsement letters in support of student applications for 11 different fellowship opportunities, and helped 5 of our 13 Fulbright Fellowship applicants advance to the semifinalist stage, and 2 win particularly competitive Fulbright awards, and helped another student win Loyola's first Truman Scholarship since 1980. Congratulations to both Susan Brower and Jason Ezel, the winners of our University Senate Award for Service. Finally, I am pleased to recognize 2 winners of this year's University Senate Award for Community Engagement. The first award winner is Dr. John Duell, Associate Professor and Chair of the Counseling Department in the College of Nursing and Health. A self-described counseling nerd, Dr. Duell earned his bachelor's degree from Loyola in 2000 and has chaired the counseling department here since 2018, guiding it through the difficulties of the past year and leading the department as it achieved impressive retention of current students and recruited one of the largest cohorts of incoming graduate students in the department's history. We honored Dr. Duell for many activities, but especially for his vision and hard work in launching Loyola's Center for Counseling and Education, LCCE, in 2019. The center provides mental health services to students and to the greater New Orleans community, including counseling for individuals, couples, families, and groups, as well as therapy for children, all on a sliding scale basis without turning any potential clients away for lack of money or insurance. Since its opening in February 2019, the center has provided over 2,500 counseling sessions to over 250 clients, the vast majority of whom earn less than $30,000 a year and come from many formerly marginalized communities. At the same time, the center has provided invaluable clinical training opportunities for our graduate students in our Department of Counseling, allowing students to complete field placements and graduate on time in the midst of the current pandemic. Dr. Duell's contributed many hours of supervision for the graduate students working in the clinic, helped build its infrastructure, worked on fundraising, and recruited and trained a full-time staff member and a new faculty member who devotes 75% of her time to the clinic. As his graduate students write, through his service to the LCCE, Dr. Duell has embodied the Jesuit value of women and men for and with others by sharing his gifts, pursuing justice, and having concern for the poor and marginalized. The second Community Engagement Award winner is Dr. Eileen Dahl, the Provost Distinguished Professor of Spanish in the Department of Languages and Cultures. Distinguished comparative literature scholar, Dr. Dahl is a highly respected teacher and the author of many books, book chapters, and articles on 20th century Spanish drama and literature. We honor her today for her many, many years of dedicated work in the field of service learning, and especially on behalf of Loyola's Office of Community Engaged Learning, Teaching, and Scholarship, OCELTS. In addition to this work, Dr. Dahl helped lead the development and execution of Loyola's 2016 to 2021 Quality Enhancement Plan, Discerning Minds, serving as the QEP Faculty Director and the lead QEP faculty member in the area of service learning. For the past 8 years, Dr. Dahl has served on the Faculty Advisory Committee of OCELTS and chaired the search committee for its new director in the fall of 2019. She has also incorporated innovative service learning opportunities into her own coursework and advised other universities on how to develop their service learning programs. In addition to serving on countless university and college committees and providing many hours of advising to individual students and student organizations, such as Sigma Delta Pi, the National Spanish Honor Society, Dr. Dahl also worked actively with Jason Ezel, one of our other award recipients, to raise awareness of fellowship opportunities for Spanish-speaking students. Finally, Dr. Dahl has served as team leader for social ministry at Grace Lutheran Church in New Orleans, coordinating social outreach for that congregation. Congratulations to both John Duell and Eileen Dahl, the recipients of this year's University Senate Award for Community Engagement.
Thank you, John. I will now turn it over to President Tetlow for our next awards.
We don't often thank our Senate chairs enough for their tireless service and unending committee work. Not only do they spend hours chairing meetings and serving as representatives on numerous other university committees, but they also spend hours collaborating with colleagues to further the mission of the university, all while fulfilling their regular full-time duties. And they do it remarkably well. I want to personally thank Professor John Lovett for his service as Faculty Senate Chair and for his ability just now to recite more acronyms in a single sentence than I thought possible. Thank you also to Ms. Kathy Gross, our beloved registrar, and for her service as Staff Senate Chair. You both always have the university's best interest in mind. The two of you have been great partners to work with, joining us in cabinet meetings during this tumultuous year. And for this, I want to honor you with a University Medal for your service. Thank you. This is normally where we would do the awards, but we'll honor you virtually. Today marks the, is this me or you?
It's me.
Sorry.
But see, that we would be doing this in person.
Right.
So today marks the 43rd occasion that Loyola University New Orleans has awarded the Dux Academicus to a faculty member who's able to impart the knowledge and wisdom of the humanities, sciences, or the professions to students in a manner consistent with the unique philosophy of Loyola University New Orleans as a Jesuit institution of higher education. Customarily, we would ask all past recipients to stand and be recognized, but today we virtually recognize all 42 past honorees. Thank you for your dynamic and selfless contributions you have made and continue to make, not only to your students and the university daily, but also to the advancement of knowledge, truth, and creativity through your ongoing research and creative works. The recipient of the 2020 Dux Academicus Award is recognized for having achieved and sustained the highest level of excellence as a scholar, educator, and contributor to community and professional service. While the chosen recipient has achieved excellence in all the aforementioned areas, the first highlight that I would like to share with you is one from a student perspective that most reflects the Ignatian values that are weaved into the core of this year's recipient and is reflected in their accomplishments. One student explains that immediately following the announcement that COVID would alter the academic delivery of the spring semester, this year's recipient spent time calling his students after hours, ensuring they were each all right. In this time of grief and hardship, this professor spent time caring for his students as individuals instead of just another teaching statistic on his record. He tried to do as much as possible to make sure his students had a semblance of security in their lives. He even pushed to do more for his students by offering support to their families. The student goes on to say, "He never met my sister, but offered to help her through the process of applying to law school, just because he knows and cares for me as a student." Our recipient is beloved by students, celebrated in course evaluations, and routinely sought as a mentor for senior capstones. The courses he teaches are very challenging, even for most studious of our students, and are required. But he establishes innovative ways to teach difficult theoretical concepts. These methods often allow students to connect densely written but important theories with their own experiences and interests. This focus on context and experience are consistent with the Ignatian pedagogical paradigm and the joint emphasis of thinking critically and acting justly. Our recipient has also taught a wide variety of courses related to criminology and justice that have most recently brought students into his research in the Louisiana prison system. One of his students shared seeing how he cares for the people who are incarcerated in Angola has made me want to become an advocate for people who are incarcerated as well. I had no intention of going into this kind of job before I met my professor, but this compassion and desire for others to succeed is contagious. For the past few years, our honorees research has focused on one of the most pressing issues in the social sciences, criminal justice reform. He has undertaken tireless work in the area of prison reentry, which is considered to be one of the most important modern focuses in the field of criminology and has humanized the many faces of our society's most misunderstood groups, people serving life in prison. In another project, our honorees' work is going to be acquired for the permanent collection of the Smithsonian Museum of African American History. In this project, our honoree has collected and studied the personal histories of prisoners serving life sentences in Louisiana. This unprecedented multidisciplinary project is known as the Visiting Room. Long held as the incarceration capital of the world, one of the drivers of Louisiana's carceral state is that people can be sentenced to life for more crimes than anywhere else. Our honoree seeks to address this issue by humanizing incarcerated persons and giving them a platform to tell their own stories through in-depth video interviews. Our honoree is giving a voice to the silenced and giving hope to those who have been discarded and forgotten. The Visiting Room is a groundbreaking project that will help reform efforts on a state and a national level. In addition to being an outstanding professor and researcher, his heart to serve our community through committee responsibilities has been boundless. He has served on the university senate nearly his entire career, serving at various times as a vice chair, a member of the executive committee, or on several other subcommittees. He has also served on a number of university-wide committees that would tire us all to go through the list. He has rarely, if ever, turned down an opportunity to serve. In all of the roles given these committees, our honoree has always had the well-being of the university at heart. He's also taken on the difficult task of serving as the university's faculty ombudsman, which requires a commitment to fairness, objectivity, and upholding the university's key values. There is so much more that our honoree has done that is deserving of this award, but at this point, I have already revealed who our recipient is. So without further ado, President Tetlow and I are honored to present the 2020 Dux Academicus to Dr. Marcus Kandker. Dr. Kandker will now make some brief remarks.
I wish we could all be in Nunemaker together, but thank you for this very generous recognition, and many thanks to the award committee and my faculty colleagues and students for the nomination. So much of this is secret, so I learned a few things in Dr. Singh's speech just now. When I learned that I had been awarded the Dux, the first thing I did was rush to tell my dear mom and dad, who have always delighted in anything good that comes my way. And I was amused at the way some dynamics from childhood just never change. When I think of the folks who have been honored with this award in previous years, those who would normally be standing today, many of whom I still look up to with great admiration as folks I want to be like when I grow up. And I have to admit that I feel a little bit underaccomplished to follow in their footsteps, actually, but I'm very honored and grateful nonetheless. I feel so very fortunate to have found my home at Loyola. I love this place for so many reasons, but the main reason is that Loyola gave me a profound gift. It was the gift of the expectation that I engage in teaching and research that's grounded in social justice principles. I didn't have that expectation of myself when I arrived here 20 years ago, fresh out of graduate school. And I'm grateful for my graduate training, but my professors instilled in me this belief that social scientists should stay clear from any questions of right and wrong, that justice advocacy had no place in the empirical science of social life, and that mixing these things would jeopardize my academic career. And that was my training, and that perspective is held by many in our field, actually, and I think it's also a view that's not entirely without merit. But Loyola is just a different place, and encouraged me to marry these two things, to engage in empirical research that addresses injustice in order to have an impact. And as a result, it made it possible for me to do work that I find meaningful and fulfilling, and to engage our students in that work. And for that, I'm more grateful than you can imagine. You know, I think it's fair to say that we all work hard, and I think I work hard too, but I also marvel at the way my life has been punctuated by so much sheer good fortune. The fortune to end up here at Loyola, to be in the right place at the right time when research funding opportunities come up, to cross paths with extraordinary people who then turn into collaborators, and to the circumstances that led to my latest project, my obsession that Dr. Singh talked a little bit about. And some of you already knew that along with an amazing team of scholars and artists, advocates, and some of our best students, I've been working on a lengthy project on incarceration and excessive sentencing practices in Louisiana, focusing on the thousands of people, mostly people of color, who have been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole at a very young age. And I conducted filmed life history interviews with over 200 men and women coping with the inhumanity of a life sentence, to try to bring greater awareness to how the state metes out punishment in our names. And as Dr. Singh mentioned, the project is called The Visiting Room. And rather than going on and on, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to end by sharing the animation piece we worked on as a team to introduce folks to the project and the project website that we are just about to launch. It is narrated by one of the men I interviewed at Angola, now a friend, named Terry Pierce. Terry's been incarcerated with a life sentence since 1980.
When I was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole at the age of 22, my young mind didn't really understand it. I thought I'd get a chance to go home after a decade. Many years ago, Louisiana had what they called the 10-6 rule for lifers. After you serve 10 years and 6 months in prison, staying out of trouble, working hard, the warden would recommend you for parole and the board and governor would release you. That's the way it was for most of the 20th century. By the time I arrived at Angola in 1987, I learned that things had changed. The changes were set in motion in 1972 when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional. Louisiana and other states rushed to make sure that people formerly on death row wouldn't be given any chance of release. 10-6 was brought to a halt and lifers were blocked from parole. There were other changes going on at the time, too. Politicians were running tough on crime platforms, saying the solution to the crime problem was giving people long sentences to make sure that they never return to society. They took discretion away from judges and parole boards and imposed long mandatory sentences instead. In Louisiana in 1979, just 1 year before I was arrested, lawmakers abolished parole eligibility for us lifers altogether. Guys who thought they would eventually have a chance to go home if they had shown the capacity to change and be rehabilitated were suddenly faced with a new reality. Life in prison, death by incarceration. Lawmakers kept growing the list of offenses that could get you mandatory life in prison without parole, from murder to selling heroin or acting as a getaway driver during a robbery gone wrong. By the time I reached Angola, the number of lifers sentenced to die in Louisiana prisons had doubled in less than a decade. 3/4 of those sentenced to life were black, like me. We were condemned to die on a former plantation where our ancestors had been enslaved. There is no doubt that most of us have done some terrible things and made terrible mistakes. There are some of us that were wrongfully incarcerated. Either way, without a chance to return to society, we are lost to the world. After 20, 30, or even 40 years, regardless of whether we changed or found ways to redeem ourselves, we are still here. Today, there are nearly 5,000 of us serving life without the possibility of parole in Louisiana. There are more of us per capita than any other state in the country or any place in the world. Many of us are old now, so old and so sick that Angola had to create a hospice program. A lot of us are volunteering to the hospice program, nursing people who, just like us, came here young and are dying in prison. Hospice gives us a glimpse of what we are headed for. When I first got to Angola, there was only one cemetery, Point Lookout, but now there are two, and the second one's almost full. Most people only hear about us when crime happens, but we have changed, and we invite you to sit with us now, decades later, to meet the people we have become. Like Darryl Waters, who is serving life without parole, says, there are everyday people behind these walls who love, who get sad, who hurt, who are happy, who have dreams. In the visiting room, you can hear us tell our stories in our own words.
Once again, thank you so much for this, and I wish you all a great start to 2021.
Thank you, Marcus, and congratulations again on receiving this very prestigious award. It is now my honor to invite President Tania Tetlow to share her remarks.
I love this convocation because it's a day that we revel in gratitude for each other, a day that we celebrate the best in us and find out and marvel at what you all have achieved. As we've been hearing today, the books you've written, the buildings that you've held together for 75 years of collective service, the students you've taught and mentored, and my new favorite, the award-winning albums that you've released on the side in your free time. And I just want to acknowledge, too, the kind of sweep that the library faculty and staff did of many of these awards. We are here in this beautiful state-of-the-art studio, and it's very exciting to be here, but we really miss seeing your faces. It's not the same. And I know that we all miss each other. Those moments in the hallway when we tease each other or inspire each other. The moments of synchronicity and laughter. And most of all, I know we all miss getting more time with the students. They are the joy that fuels us. Normally, my own speech at Convocation would be a State of the Union, letting you know where Loyola stands and how far we've come. To start with a very short version of that, we will get through this. Our momentum has been put on hold by this financial kick in the shins, but we're going to be fine. Thanks to caution and sacrifices, thanks to congressional support, we should end this year with only a small deficit, less than 5%. Our applications from incoming students, knock on wood, are actually up from last year at this time, and we're doing really well. And we will be doing everything we can to facilitate Loyola's access to vaccines as soon as the various categories apply to us, starting with 70 and over, the allied health faculty, and moving through frontline workers, teachers, we hope, and all the categories. We don't have certainty from state government on exactly when those things will happen, but we will let you know as soon as we do and know that we're actively involved in making sure we get our turn in line. Congratulations to those who've already gotten us started with their vaccines. But I can't just focus inwardly on Loyola today, because while we struggle to go on with the daily routine of academic life, it seems like the whole world is falling around us. The human race has been brought to its knees by a microorganism. Entire parts of our economy are shuttered, leaving people desperate. And just at the moment most critical for our country to come together, we are coming apart at the seams. We can't even agree on a definition of the common good, much less what sacrifices are necessary to get there. We're bombarded with misinformation. Distrust is spreading like a contagion. Our national faith in institutions, including now even higher ed, fades away every day. And our students look out at futures clouded by a bewildering level of disruption. So how do we matter in this chaos? What can we do? And that's what I want to talk about today, because I think that higher education is a crucial voice in this wilderness. We teach our students to be good people and good citizens in the broadest sense of that word. We help them to distinguish facts from propaganda and disinformation and hyperbole. We teach them that truth exists, and also that they must have humility about whether they have found the truth. And most of all, we teach them empathy to pierce the growing tide of selfishness. The fight is daunting and the obstacles to our work are growing, but what we do every day, particularly at a mission-based institution like Loyola, puts us on the front lines of hope. I had an argument recently with a beloved relative about mask wearing, and she insisted that she had a right to determine her own risk without government interference. I reminded her that masks protect others. They save lives. They let the economy function. She cited the changing scientific evidence on masks early in the pandemic as evidence that no one could really know anything for sure, ever. We went back and forth on the scientific evidence, but any source I cited turned out to be one in which she had thoroughly lost faith. It was clear that we got our data from entirely different universes. To her, scientific uncertainty and complexity just sound like excuses. We were at a total impasse, and finally she scolded me, "Tania, you have your facts and I have mine." It kind of summed up what we're up against. First, the dangerous idea that there just is no truth, or better yet, that everyone's entitled to have their own truths, their own facts, their own reality. In higher education, we stand for the idea that there is one set of facts, though we don't purport to always know them. We stand for the pursuit of truth, even when it's elusive and hard to know. During the Middle Ages, Catholic higher education was often passionately convinced of some theories that turned out to be pretty wrong, like that whole fiasco about the sun orbiting the earth. But scholars ended their work with the Latin phrase, salvo meliore judicia. Basically, let my theory stand unless there is a better one. I believe, but I know I could be wrong. This is the work we do in the labs of Monroe Hall and our discussions of economic principles and countless debates about legal standards. We try our best to find the right answers. We teach that complexity isn't an excuse. It's a good sign that we're onto something. That acknowledging that we can't be sure of the truth isn't the same as saying truth doesn't exist. And the stakes keep getting higher. I asked my Uncle Joe, the beloved Jesuit, to name the most profound change he's witnessed in his 90 years on this earth. He thought about it and said, instant, unfiltered communication. Our students have been bombarded with information they cannot possibly process. Worse, they're showered with mistruths that range from hyperbole to intellectual sloppiness to outright misinformation campaigns, both domestic and foreign. And even as we try to help them find sources of authority they might trust, we ourselves have been accused of being propaganda artists. Our library faculty are particularly proud of the work they do to help students think about sources of information and credibility, but we all have a new part to play in stepping back and helping students navigate how knowledge is constructed. Our communication school especially is on the front line of ethics in a new and strange land of journalism. Because the second battle we fight is the flip side of the first, to ask our students who are sure they have a monopoly on the truth to admit that they could be wrong, to teach the very Jesuit willingness to push on assumptions, including our own, to teach intellectual humility. All of which sounds easy and obvious until you try it yourself. I don't know about you, but there have been so many moments these last few years when I am just drowning in my own self-righteousness. It feels so good to be so sure I'm right, and better yet, to be so sure that others are wrong, and marveling at how deluded they are and how I manage to see through the fog to the clear truth. But I had a humbling epiphany recently. The ideas and values and principles that I'm so cocky about are pretty much exactly the same ones that my parents have. That doesn't mean they're wrong, but it also doesn't mean that I'm exactly a paragon of courage and wisdom in arriving there. If we were here together, I'd ask for a show of hands to see how many of us are apples that landed pretty close to our trees. Not all of us, but many. So when we challenge our students to give up everything they know, everything they've been taught, we need to remember to be a little more humble ourselves, a little more patient and kind with them. It is our job to push students. Anything less than that, as I explained to an annoyed student who emailed me recently, would mean they should demand their tuition back. The point of education is to challenge them. But we need to make students sometimes feel uncomfortable without making them feel unwelcome. Our country is drowning in the rhetoric of indignation and self-righteousness. If we're going to help our students find a better path, we have to model a better path. We do not demonstrate intellectual curiosity and openness with arrogance. We do not demonstrate tolerance by being intolerant. We teach students how to talk to people with whom they disagree by doing it well ourselves. And I don't just mean faculty. All of you who interact with students have these teachable moments in how we treat students and how we let them treat us. We can stand against the politics of indignation. We can stand against the cancel culture that revels in tearing people down for missteps that many of those same critics have made themselves, the rabid eagerness to cast the first stone. But we also have to remind our students that being against cancel culture doesn't mean that you avoid accountability for your own actions. Just because you've been criticized doesn't mean you didn't deserve to be criticized. Freedom of speech does not mean you get to hurl insults at people and then be mad at them when they bristle. We teach and serve students with patience and empathy, and doing that is not the same as putting up with everything from them. And I say this at a moment when bias incidents are up on our campus, when some of our students are using words so dark and offensive, I dare not repeat them here. We can also insist on the lines in the sand that make our work possible. We can insist that our students, and all of us, respect basic human dignity, that we do not try to make any member of our community feel like they don't belong here because of who they are. We will debate anything and everything, but not that. All of this work is what higher education has done for centuries, but it seems so much harder right now. So how do we actually survive in the trenches and teach students in an atmosphere of increasing confusion and mistrust and discord? Last week I read an article in the Chronicle that proposed an answer, that students need to learn the principles of discernment, which made me laugh out loud because that's something we should be pretty good at here at Loyola. The Jesuit practice of discernment is exactly what we need. And we need to use that word like a mantra because it carries the weight of 500 years of credibility, moral, religious, psychological, and practical credibility. So how does discernment work specifically? In short, discernment is the opposite of social media warfare. It means slowing down before jumping to conclusions. It means listening hard and with respect. We consider both sides of the argument, one at a time, because without that, we can't know what we really think and believe. And listening to the argument on the other side isn't moral relativism. It isn't dangerous. It's crucial. Discernment also means being self-aware, something the business faculty can attest has become all the rage in leadership and management training. Each of us sees the world from the perspective of our own subjectivity and lived experience. To make a good decision, it's essential that we know ourselves well, that we become aware of our own triggers and biases. And when we engage in discernment, we pay attention to mind, body, and spirit. We listen to the logic of our head, but not just that. We pay attention to the actions of our body. How do we in fact behave? Do we live our ideals? Where are there disconnects? And we listen to our spirit, the instincts we have about the morality at stake, the deep-rooted signals in our gut about what is right. Let's make those practices what distinguish us at Loyola. And the last giant hurdle I want to talk about is selfishness, because right now in this country we face a crisis of plummeting empathy. We are a nation founded in part on the principles of individual liberty. We are rightfully proud of that streak of gumption and independence that has made us into an economic giant. We believe that when I make choices that don't affect others, government should stay out of my way. The only problem with that being our primary motive is this. It turns out that this country does best when it balances principles of liberty with our other founding principles, responsibility to community. Because it turns out there just aren't that very many choices I make that don't affect others. And it turns out that the good of each of us affects the good of the whole. And when I take a stand like this here, know that these are principles that cut across partisan lines. These are principles rooted in our own Catholic faith and that of most of the world's religions. The pandemic has thrown some basic truth in our face. No matter how hard we try to live our own lives and make our own choices within our own silos, it's just not possible. In the most surreal ways right now, the very act of breathing can devastate others, cost them their health, their livelihoods, or even their lives. There could be no more absurd moment in our history for the growing insistence that we all have a moral and constitutional right to selfishness. Because rarely have we had a moment when our common fate depended so much on putting selfishness aside. I've been struggling for the right analogy, and I came up with this one. Imagine, for example, if Londoners during the Blitz in World War II had insisted that they had an individual right to turn their lights on during blackouts, a right to see and be seen, regardless of whether it meant their neighbors would get bombed. These are the kind of absurd arguments being made right now. And so we in the United States find ourselves with 4% of the world's population and 19% of the world's COVID deaths. Not because we lack wealth or scientific ingenuity, but because we lack empathy and moral reasoning. So why is this happening? Because our national philosophy also contains a healthy dose of responsibility to community, of sacrifice for country and the common good, and so many Americans are demonstrating that right now on the front lines. But those instincts, so crucial to creating the rising tide that lifts all boats, have been limited for centuries by our founding sin. Our system of racial subordination, from slavery to segregation to our current caste system, means that many Americans don't fully believe in the common humanity of their fellow citizens. And that keeps us from seeing the common good because we're so sure that it's us versus them. instead of making the choices that would lift all of us. We suffer collectively over and over again. So how does higher education teach empathy? How do we go up against this streak in our national character? How do we matter so late in our students' own personal development? In so many ways, you do it every day, all of you, faculty and staff. We teach students moral reasoning, most obviously through religion and philosophy and law. We also invite students to imagine themselves in others' shoes, literally to experience it, whether in literature or film or plays or music. Students learn about human experience by understanding psychological development and sociological complexity. And all of you who engage with students, from the facility staff who change light bulbs in the res halls to those of you who negotiate bills in the student finance office, all of you teach kindness by being kind. You model it every day. And I know that because I hear about it from grateful students and families. Because if selfishness spreads like a virus, our job is to grow the antibodies, honor and integrity and empathy. And I'm telling you it works. So here's my evidence of that. The pandemic has been a giant emotional and moral test of all of us, but particularly of our students. As I told them in an email this fall, there has never been a more precise metric of how much you care about this community than our dashboard of COVID every day. And that metric proves that Loyola students care enormously about this community. Thanks to some extraordinary planning from an administration and staff, and it would take me too long to name all of you, but you know how grateful we are. Thanks to a fair dose of luck, and most of all, thanks to the behavior of our students, we have done really well. I looked back at the rate of infection in the entire city of New Orleans during our fall semester, and 4% of the population of the city was diagnosed with COVID during those months. And the rate of our students, well, you'd expect it to be much higher given their youth, their desperate desire to make friends and be together, the difficulty at their age of imagining their own mortality or delaying gratification. But despite all of that, their rate was only 5% of the student population. And frankly, we did such an active job of contact tracing and testing on demand, I wouldn't be surprised if our actual rate were in fact lower than the city's. What we do matters, and our students make it worthwhile. We are so lucky in the students we attract, the community they form, imperfect but full of love, their creative energy and enthusiasm. We push to make them better, all of us, but we start from such a place of hope. And the students are so lucky to have all of you. Our community of faculty and staff is also imperfect, but full of love. And I can't think of a better example to demonstrate that than Marcus Concar. He's not a fan of public praise, and he's glaring at me right now, but this is the one day that he has to put up with it. Marcus is a brilliant scholar of the ways systems can root justice and compassion. He builds empathy for the most despised among us by interviewing prisoners, describing their own lives so others can learn to care. Marcus seeks the elusive truth both from human stories and from data, mapping the murders of New Orleans to show that not even Katrina could interrupt certain patterns of violence. He teaches students with endless patience and kindness, as you heard. And on top of all that, when he serves as faculty ombudsman, he helps hone our own community, disarming conflict with endless diplomacy and empathy. And last summer, we almost lost him to an accident when he broke almost every bone in his body except his left arm. He decided he would recover best if he continued to teach, because our students would help him find the strength to endure the pain, to fight his way back. He represents the heart and soul of this community, and he embodies so many of you. And I'm going to pause right now for the standing ovation that I know that he's getting quietly from each of us from our homes and offices. Loyola, this is a period of real darkness for us, but the dawn is coming, I promise. And as the scriptures say, joy cometh in the morning. Right now we endure, but we also fight for the future of our students, to keep their hopes and talents and dreams on track, to become the people we need to change this struggling world, to become the entrepreneurs and scientists, the nurses and judges and journalists who will make a difference. That is the work we do here, That is what makes all of you a shining light in this wilderness, on the front lines of hope. Right now we endure, but we also start to dream. We let ourselves imagine the moment when our smiles are not blocked by masks, when we can hug absolutely everybody, when we can crowd into a music club and dance with abandon. And I'm picturing you, Bob Thomas. To dream of the moment on campus when our choirs, all of them, can sing at full blast with every single music ensemble. The moment when we can come together as a community and trade stories and tease each other and laugh together and celebrate what we have achieved. That moment is so soon. We can see it on the horizon. So hang in there, my friends. We will get there. Thank you.
Thank you, President Tetlow, for those very, very inspiring remarks. At this time, I invite Father Daffron, Society of Jesus, to give the benediction.
We are richly blessed as a Loyola community. And so as we conclude this convocation, we pause for a quiet moment to thank God for the many blessings we have received. God of us all, as we conclude our Spring 21 convocation, ground us in gratitude, gift us with faith, sustain us by hope, redeem us through love, so we may create together a community that reflects your vision of kingdom, of peace, love, and justice. May God bless you, and God bless Loyola. Peace and blessings in 2021.
Thank you, Father Daffron. I wish you all a safe and successful start to the spring semester. Please join us for a virtual Zoom happy hour immediately following convocation. Convocation is now adjourned.